All right, so here we have The Naked Time. This is an episode that is particularly memorable for the way that they have the various characters acting. It's just not normal for Star Trek. So, it catches people's attention. And, well, people use it as a character building thing, but realistically, it's kind of sort of most of the character building stuff that gets established here actually kind of gets ignored in later episodes. So it's not really character building if you look at it once and then forget about it. Anyway, though, so what do we have other than that? One interesting thing about this episode that did not make it into the episode as aired is that it was originally part of a 2-episode arc that would have meant that this episode would have been the reason for Earth being visited in the past by the Enterprise in Tomorrow is Yesterday. Also a highly memorable episode for just how strange things got due to it being the crew of the Enterprise not being on the Enterprise, or even in what is, by their standard, the present. So the logic there was that at the end of this episode, Psi 2000 breaks apart and they have to do some fancy maneuver to escape. Well, that fancy maneuver they did to escape would have caused them to arrive at Earth in the past, etc., etc., etc. Which, in the episode as aired of Tomorrow is Yesterday, getting sent back into the past happened off screen. Yeah, you don't see it. Kirk's like, yeah, we're stuck in the past now. We have to figure out how, we have to, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, enough of that. So, interesting things about this episode's casting. One thing here is that this is from before they had decided on what would later be seen as the canonical main cast of Star Trek, the original series. In fact, the cast of Star Trek, the original series kind of rotated a bit. Because, like, what most people think of as the canonical main cast, finding a single episode that has all of them in it is actually impossible. Because, like, Christine Chapel, Lieutenant Uhura, and Jenny Sarand only appear together in one episode. And it's not an episode that has both Sulu and Chekhov in it. So, yeah, when you look at the main cast from that perspective, they really aren't, because they don't actually appear in a single episode as a group. Because, like, this is from an era of television when stuff like the Andy Griffith Show was the thing, and, like, you would have a main character, and everyone else was kind of seen as a supporting character. You didn't have a main cast where you have multiple characters that are kind of sort of supposed to share the spotlight. Anyway, though, so you have characters like Joe Tormolen and Kevin Riley, who get prominent parts in episodes and then just kind of get forgotten about. Because, like, if the writers had decided that they wanted to use these characters again, and some of these characters did in fact get used more than once in significant roles, it's just that they weren't used often enough to be seen as main cast, because realistically the actual main cast was much smaller than fans think it was. Just that they had several recurring characters that got used in almost every episode, even if they weren't, actually they were considered by the production team to be secondary characters. It's just that they were secondary characters that they ended up consistently using. These guys, nah, interesting characters, but not really main cast. Anyway, so the location. Um, One thing about this that's interesting is that the mission that the Enterprise is on is to seemingly to recover the Federation's research personnel and data from Psi 2000, because this is a location that is presumably somewhat dangerous, because the research station here was established because the Federation realized that this planet is slowly breaking apart. And they don't really know why, and I guess that would be the reason why they have a research station on it, because that's the only thing we're told about this location. Because when you pay close attention, it's not really clear if the script writers meant that the research station was named Psi 2000 or the planet. And in a lot of cases, it really seems more like Psi 2000 is the name of the research base, not the planet itself. It's like we're never told the name of the solar system this is in, which is weird. And also, Psi 2000 just doesn't fit the naming scheme that they normally use for planets in the original series. Makes more sense if it's a Federation research building. Anyway, though, the Federation crew here are studying the forces that are causing the planets to slowly break apart. One thing that's notable here is that this is a Class C planet, which doesn't come up often because they are things where it's a frozen ice ball that is completely unlivable without something that is on par with a space station. Yeah, the reason the crew of the station are dead is because someone suffering from polywater intoxication shut off the life support systems. And then everyone just froze to death because the temperature inside the station dropped below what it's supposed to be. Not a great place to live. Really, really not a very comfy place to live. Anyway, so moving on to the polywater intoxication, because we don't know much about Psi 2000. Anyway, so polywater. Polywater is something that, as a concept, isn't all that complicated. But the issue with polywater that makes it something that takes a lot of effort to use in a story is the fact that you have to have a source of it, and known sources of polywater involve weird astronomical phenomena that cause gravitational reverberations. And it's the gravitational reverberations that cause water molecules to accumulate into polywater. Realistically, water normally does this. It's just that water doesn't stay in forms like that, and water will just kind of sort of form clumps as part of like the whole like concept of surface tension. That's water forming itself into a net-like structure on the surface. That's why surface tension exists. It's not permanent. It's a fleeting and transitory. And the logic behind polywater is something that would seemingly, if I was to use this, I would state that if you left the area that was causing the formation of polywater, the polywater would disintegrate and stop being an issue because of the fact that it was the gravitational reverberations causing it to come into existence, when under normal circumstances it would disintegrate milliseconds after coming into existence. So, get out of the area and you're fine, presumably. And, you know, in this episode, Psy 2000 breaking up when it finally happened was the end of it. It just stopped. Obviously, though, the threat is that due to the Enterprise's crew being, affected by the polywater and just kind of sort of going nuts, they did things. Which is kind of an interesting thing with this plot, and part of the reason why I don't really like it as something you have players do is that you either need to have the players as crewmen watching as the people around them do stupid things, or you have to have the players play along with the stupidity and have their characters act out the uninhibited whatever nonsense. Also, is that while Polywater is in existence, it does kind of sort of in some ways act like a virus, in that one accumulation of Polywater tends to grow over time. Somehow, it's sci-fi nonsense. But it's like in theory, it's like having the Polywater level in your blood exceed a certain point would actually functionally have your blood crystallize, because all of the water has turned into these blobby things, and now all of your veins are no longer moving. That is actually an interesting thing to note, though, is that the polywater in the research base here was seen having properties that don't even make sense based on the description of it, because of the fact that it was said to be able to move along surfaces and jump onto a host. That doesn't make sense for a mere molecule. What the... Yeah, that's like Eldritch Horror nonsense, which that never got explained. And in Naked Now, they just kind of left out that idea in and of itself, of like in being infected with polywater. Whereas like in Naked Now, just like everyone on the ship is exposed to the event that created it, so now everyone has polywater, and the whole contamination and infection subplot doesn't get used at all. Although realistically, in Naked Time, it affected everyone anyways, and it's not actually clear how the ship got infected. Although Psi 2000 was supposedly the source of the infection. And also because the fact this was the first time that the Federation had ever seen polywater, none of the medical sensors were able to identify it, because it's just water molecules that are somehow moving together in groups. Yeah. I do have to say, though, the Psi 2000 station concept and the whole like bonus crew thing, that was actually a cool idea. Yeah, that's something that you can definitely data mine for some interesting source material. Polywater itself is just a weird random space hazard that I mean, there's uses for it, but there's other things that I would personally rather do. Anyway, though, see you guys later.